Latest football news, engaging debates,
and fascinating opinions.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, as always, for another week of football action. How are you? Have you had a good week? Have you been enjoying the nice autumn-ish weather where it's been blue skies, rain, thunder, wind, all sorts, all 4 seasons in one day. But before we move on with today's show, I better mention our co-host and introduce our co-host for today. It is Dan, our resident Ipswich Town fan. How are you doing, mate? Long time no see, as always.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm still on a high after what's happened this week. So yeah, it's going to be a good show today.
Yes, it is going to be a brilliant show, as always. But before we move on with it and mention what is coming up in today's show, I better mention the social medias. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk. Instagram is at Talk_Pitch. YouTube, mixed with both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any previous shows, missed last week's show, do not worry. It's up there on the YouTube mixed. Have a listen, see what you think. Enjoy it before you listen to this one today. And what have we got coming in today's show? Well, we'll be talking about Ipswich Town. They've had 2 away games on the bounce, away to Cambridgeshire and down to the south coast to play Pompey. Wannabe rivals, I want to say. And then we've got the Premier League game week number 8, where we saw a new era start and then some teams slipping up and a manager having a very bad start to his new life and his new club. And also we have a Champions League roundup for match week 3, as we saw all 4 English clubs in action. And we'll have to see how they got on a little bit later in the show. But before we go, Ipswich Town are playing twice this week. So when we come back, I should say, I'm getting my words all mucked up here. When we come back, we'll be talking about Ipswich Town and their 2 rivalry games, a derby apparently, East Anglian derby, and a wannabe rivalry. So don't go anywhere.
Stay up to date with the latest footy news.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George and Dan, as always. And now before we move on talking about Ipswich Town this week, I better mention the social media. Twitter, it's at Pitchside Talk. Instagram is at Talk_Pitch. YouTube, Mixcloud, both at Pitchside Talk. If you missed any of our previous shows, do not worry. They're all up there on the YouTube Mixcloud, ready for you to listen back whenever you are ready to catch up on all the football action we have talked about over the past, 2 years? Over 2 years now, Dan.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Madness, absolutely madness. But now, Ipswich Town this week, we had a double bill of away games, a very big double bill of away games, 2 away games to be precise, away to Cambridge and to Portsmouth. Apparently, the East Anglian derby, Dan doesn't like me saying it, but apparently it was the East Anglian derby according to Cambridge United. Not really too sure about that. I think the last time they played Cambridge was in 1991. I've only played them 5 times, but apparently that is a derby. So it's a derby. And also we had a wannabe rivals in Portsmouth as well heading into this game. But these games were very crucial for Ipswich Town. And so they got 6 points from these games. They had the potential to possibly enter the playoff places if the results went their way around the other teams. But there's a big common theme that reared its ugly head as Town slipped the lead once again at Cambridge, which saw them have to settle for the point in the end, despite leading 2-0 at half-time thanks to Luco's double, but it finished 2-2 in the end between Cambridge and Ipswich Town. But Dan, once again, Town just struggling to shut up shop and the game management, because they let their opponents come in and walk away with a point, which is massively disappointed with sort of how the way we've seen Ipswich Town play quite recently, where they've actually been managed to manage games out and they just let it come back in once again.
Yeah, it's really disappointing. It's something that, as you said, has been a problem all season so far. We've drawn 2-2 with so many teams this season so far, haven't we? It's been one of the most common scores we've had, which is disappointing, because if we're not in the playoffs by the end of the season, we'll look at these games where we conceded late on and think, where would we be where we could have just held on for a few more minutes? So yeah, obviously first half, 40 minutes we dominated. We're 2-0. Luco coming from absolutely nowhere and scoring 2. His first one was chip over the keeper, a really good goal. Actually, it was more of a lob, wasn't it? Not a chip. It was a lob over the keeper. And yeah, we looked comfortable. I thought, 2-0 up against Cambridge. Surely we're going to see this out. But again, we concede so early from scoring. We did it against Shrewsbury. We did it again against Cambridge. It's just so disappointing. It's something that we need to sort out quickly because we can't keep doing it. And then the fact that we held on for so long in the second half, but conceded so late on a goal that we could have stopped. It's just from a set piece, isn't it? And it was I think it was the second ball actually, just headed back into the box and headed into the empty net past Ladke. And yeah, it was just really, really disappointing because I thought it was a game that we could see out because, I thought our team, especially in the first half, we were better than them, and we should have just gone for it in the second half rather than sitting back, which, invited pressure. I don't think that's Paul Cook's style really, to invite pressure, but it keeps happening, which is a bit odd really.
It's very odd to see. Well, after the disappointment in Cambridgeshire, Town had to make a trip down to the south coast to play wannabe rivals Portsmouth, whose fans over the summer window were quite more obsessed with Ipswich Town than their own club. They remind me of another set of fans which will not be named, who are a bit more obsessed than Town than their own club. But these two teams here are the favourites to get out of League One this season, but they've been down the wrong end of the table for Paul Cook. He was returning to one of his previous sides, and before the game, we saw a little bit of a fiery exchange between him and a journalist who's sort of been bigging up the game for all the wrong reasons. And Paul Cook had to say a few words about it to his face. But on the night in the game at Fratton Park, Town ran a riot on the south coast, a 4-0 win, which has been Paul Cook's biggest win yet as a manager. But Dan, after Saturday's disappointment, what a way to respond back. After sort of all the media attention surrounding the game, between sort of Paul Cook returning to Portsmouth and Portsmouth with its stands on Twitter and all sorts, this is the way to hit back for Town here. This is probably the most complete performance we've seen. And now they're potentially back in this race for the playoffs, which they want to be closer to. They're only 5 points off now.
Yeah, it's getting closer, isn't it? And yeah, what a win. Paul Cook's best win so far. It was just really impressive, wasn't it? I don't think we were expecting it really, going into this game. I think Portsmouth, they've had a poor start, haven't they? But it's Portsmouth. They've got decent players. They've got a decent manager as well, who is a bit under pressure at the moment. But going away to Fratton Park is not easy. So to come away with it with a 4-0 win is really impressive. I think the first half, there wasn't really anything in it, was there? It was kind of just both teams, putting in a average performance, really. But, a mistake from the keeper. Second time that's happened where Bond's stolen it off the keeper. He's becoming a menace doing that, and a lovely finish that kind of, put us in a good place. And to keep that lead going into half time as well was really important. But that second half, absolutely fantastic. That second half, all over them, from start to finish. We were closing them down well, winning the ball back, and scored three really good goals. All came from the right hand side as well, which is, it's good. Come from Donasian down that right hand side. He got 2 assists. But yeah, massively impressive second half, and what a win. And what was it, 1,200 Ipswich fans, fantastic away following, went home happy, which, yeah, I just don't think any of us were expecting it. And, I'm still buzzing from that win. It's one of them wins that you're still buzzing from. And, I seriously think that we're turning now, and this is where we're going to start winning games. And, that was the difference between this game and Cambridge, is we went 1-0 up, but Paul Cook obviously wants them to keep scoring, and that's what happened. We just tore Portsmouth apart because they were there for the taking.
Yeah, they were there for the taking. That's interesting. So you think this is the turning point now? Do you think this is the moment? This
What
is
is
the
it,
moment they
one?
need.
Yeah, this win. That I think that's what it was important with this win. Um, it was massive for the season, I think, because this is a game against maybe not a team that are doing well in the league, but a team that we weren't expecting to beat away from home. So to come out and thrash that team at Fratton Park, and it's a statement win, isn't it, to the rest of the league? I think it's a statement win that we're not messing around. It's been a poor start, but we're on our way back, which let's hope that happens, because we all want a success this season. And let's just put that poor start behind us and carry on. And I know we haven't really played any of the top teams yet, have we? I think we've got Plymouth and Wickham who are first. Oh, I don't think Wickham are second anymore, because I think they drew 0-0 to Rotherham. But teams in and around the playoffs coming up, so that'll be the real test. But I still think this was a statement win for Town.
Yeah, Wickham are currently third. I think it's Fleetwood on Saturday, which is tomorrow, and then there's the Plymouth and the Wickham double bill, the back-to-back games, which I think has sort of been highlighted as big moments in the season. With Plymouth, they're currently top of the league, only one loss. I didn't realise that. And they love playing in the heavy rain at the moment, don't they, Plymouth? I don't know if you've seen that video, but it's a fantastic video. I recommend it. If you have not seen that, go on the internet site, find Plymouth's a goal against Bolton in the heavy rain. That's just football at its finest.
It is.
Especially the celebration as well. We're getting a little bit sidetracked here, but for Paul Cook, he was buzzing in the pre-match interviews, praising his side, describing it as the most complete performance he's had all season, which I think is something here we've not actually seen an all-complete Town side. But for him, he just said, "You just want to keep going. I know that it's boring, but that's what you always have to go away with, analysing what you can do and ask yourself, can we get better?" We've been in a rough place to go. It's probably one of the most complete performances we've had all season. I'm just so pleased for our supporters who travelled. I said to the players at half-time, you have to score in front of those fans. You have to give them the momentum that they want to give them to carry us home. And I think that's the thing down really here. This side, if they get those fans on the side here, it's hard to break sort of the 12 man here. But for Paul Cook, it's happy to see him happy. We're not seeing him happy much this season. We've seen him happy in periods, but this is the most happiest we've seen him, I think, after a game. But for him, it's just now he can sit now. The side can do it, but it's now about getting that consistency. But like you said, beating Ports, it is a statement win. But for other sides, they need to be on their A game, because if not, Town are just going to tear teams apart. As we're seeing at the moment, 27 goals in the first 13 league games. Mm-hmm. Other sides are going to be a little bit fearful of that, aren't they?
They are, yeah. And I think the fact that we're scoring lots of goals is going to bring that to the teams in this league, isn't it? And momentum is a big thing in this league, and we know that from last season. We didn't score last season, did we? And we weren't that far away from the playoffs in the end, were we? Which is a bit of a strange one, but in this league, momentum is key. I think I've said that so many times on the show, but it's the truth, isn't it? So I think the fact that we've got so many goal scorers in this squad, it can only be a good thing. To send them, I think Paul Cook was right about sending the fans home happy, because, as you said, if Ipswich fans are on side, we can be a 12th man, and I think we can make Portman Road a difficult place to come. So yeah, I really hope we carry on this goal scoring form, because I think I said it on Twitter that we might not have had the start we all wanted. We definitely haven't, but we haven't seen football like this for so long. I'm excited to go and watch Ipswich for once, which hasn't happened in so long. The last 5-6 years, actually, even under Mick, was just a bore fest, really. So it's just good to see goals flying in. We've still got work to do. We've still got a long way to go, and there's still improvements that need to be sorted out. but I think we're enjoying watching our team play again, which I think was the aim that the owners and the manager had from the start, just to start this league and be competitive and score goals, which is happening so far. So if the players and the manager and the owners can keep that going, then the fans are going to stay on side, and we're going to support the team till the end. That's just what happens with Ipswich, and that's hopefully going to make it Portman Road a fortress, because that's what we all want.
Yes, and also those away wins as well, quite crucial. We know how tough it is now. You've seen with other clubs how tough it is to go to other places, especially with fans back in. It's not a given that you're going to easily walk away with a game now as the away side. But as you said there, it feels like the fun factor is back at Ipswich Town. I think it's the first time I've ever seen the fun factor at Ipswich Town. I don't know, when was the last time the fun factor at Ipswich Town? Ever? Has it ever been at Ipswich Town?
I mean, my favourite season was the playoff season, which was 14-15, and it's been a bit poor since then, really.
Yeah.
So
Gosh,
it's been a while.
It has been a long time, but 27 goals in the first 13 league games. And we have 3 players to thank very much. So for all these goals going in so far, Michaeli Bond scoring 9 from 9 games. Connor Chaplin, what a turnaround for him. 4 goals in the last 6 games. And also for Luco, 3 goals in the last 2. We've talked about Bond so much on the show. We all know how good Bond is, and we know how much we want him to stay. Luckily, QPR are scoring the goals for their strikers at the moment. So hopefully they will stay well clear away with Michaeli Bond. But we need to mention about Chaplin and Luco here, because a few weeks ago, these 2 players here were in the cold. We've seen them and not been too impressed by Chaplin. I think we've had little sparks here and there, but nothing consistent enough to say he's going to be playing week in, week out as this number 10. We've got Selena. We're all fine. We don't need anybody else. He could be a good backup. But for Luca as well, he's not been performing as well. When he's been in the squad, looked very much lackluster, not up to speed with the game. But what has happened with these 2 players here? Turnaround in form. And it now looks like these 2 here cannot be dropped. With all the quality Town have got in their squad, these 2 here cannot be dropped from the goal scorer they've got at the moment. And I think that's deservedly right, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's a huge turnaround for these players. As you said, I think Chaplin he's had sparks, hasn't he? And we know what a quality player he can be. I thought when we signed him, he was, a fantastic signing and probably one of my favourites. He hasn't really had a chance, which I guess is disappointing for him. But the last few games, he's been scoring goals and performing well. I think the Portsmouth game, he was absolutely fantastic in that second half, pulling the strings out at number 10. And I think that performance against Portsmouth has showed he's probably the best option for that number 10 position, which is, really good to see, because, we know what he can do from that position. And I think he's deadly going forward. Luco, he's kind of come from nowhere, hasn't he? He made a few sub appearances. I think he played in the cup as well. And I think I saw him. I can't remember who it was against, but he didn't look fit when he came on, and he's completely turned that around, which is really good to see. He's scoring goals. I think when he came in against Cambridge, I think everyone was a bit surprised by that and thought, "What's he trying to do here?" But he quickly proved everyone wrong after 10 minutes. And he's putting in great performances, which is really good to see, because I think we signed him on a free, didn't we? I think.
Yes, free agent.
Yeah, he was a free agent. So I guess it's a bit of a risk when you do that. You don't know how these players are going to perform, but to not pay anything for this player and him to come in and make a difference, it's really good to see. And yeah, I think these 2 players, it's going to be hard to drop them now because of the form they're in, and I don't think Paul Cook will. I think them 2 will probably start on tomorrow as well. So yeah, it's I think the fact that we've got so many players in positions, in all positions really, attacking wise, that can score goals as well. It's only a good thing in this league, and long may it continue.
Yes, long may it continue. Well, we've talked about Luca and Chaplin, and there's one player we haven't mentioned about who's, I think if we had to do the awards season right now, it has to be most improved, but also most surprised player to be starting a lot, and that is Janoy Donatian. somebody who's gone from zero to hero in the space of a few months. He got a 1-year extension at the end of the season, despite only playing a few times under Paul Lambert and Paul Cook, but he did go on loan to Fleetwood. But now he's playing week in, week out. He got 2 assists on the game against Portsmouth, and he has been described by Paul Cook as one of the best 1v1 defenders at the club. Dan, this is such a great turnaround by Genoid, but also a massive surprise as well, because nobody expected this. I think sort of Genoid has come in, and as every game he's played, he has given a good, solid performance each time. But this is so surprising because we were expecting Kane Vincent-Young to absolutely dominate that position, be the ideal player in Paul Cook's system, be this attacking fullback that we've been waiting to see. But it's the person that we have been describing a few seasons ago as not the most attacking, a bit more defensive. But Donatian, take a bow, son.
Yeah. Where has it come from? It's madness. A couple of seasons ago when we signed him, I didn't rate him, and I think I said that on the show quite a bit. I never rated him that highly, but the fact that he's kind of been, I guess, rejected by Paul Lambert. Really sent him out on loan twice. Didn't want him, and the fact they can, be away from the club for so long and then come straight back in and put in fantastic performances like that. Credit to him, and it's fantastic to see that he's put in fantastic performances. And yeah, I think we all thought that Kane Vincent-Young was going to be the Paul Cook fullback that we needed. He hasn't looked the same since his long-term injury, which unfortunate for him. But he was getting caught out a lot with balls over the top, which, balls in behind, which happens a lot in this league. And I don't think Vincent-Young was handling wingers very well, really. He was struggling a bit. But I think Donatian coming in and I guess solidifying in that defensive fullback, I guess, as a defensive fullback. He's never really been a player that gets forward, but he has been doing that this season. He's completely changed. He's been getting forward pretty well. He's not the paciest player in the world, but he'll get forward and create a problem. He's done that in the few games that I've watched so far. He got 2 assists against Portsmouth, so can't complain with that. And he's looked solid defensively, so you can't drop him at the moment, can you? He's another player that you can't drop. He's put in brilliant performances every single week. At the moment, I feel like he's an outside shot for player of the season so far. He's been that good.
Ooh.
Let's see what happens. It's between Bon and Donatian for me. So
I was just about to go. You can't take away from McKenny Bon, can you? You can't. You can't.
Between Bon and Donatian for me.
Gosh, who would I have to say right at the start of the season? If you said that,
Yeah.
I've been looking at you going, what?
We were, yeah.
Absolutely crazy. It is crazy. It looks like Paul Cook's finally finding his ideal 11, but we're not too sure. He might change it in a few games' time. But they do have another game coming up on Saturday, which is tomorrow, 3:00 kickoff at Portman Road against Fleetwood Town and Well Town. They do return it back to Portman Road after running the show on the South Coast against Portsmouth, looking to make it 2 on the bounce and also 3 wins in a row at home to make Portman Road a fortress. But the visitors, they are Fleetwood Town, who currently sit in 20th place, only 2 points off the drop zone. They did suffer defeat on Tuesday night versus Burton Albion, as another team that Ipswich Town struggled against this season as well. But Dan, Ipswich Town, they come into this game with a lot of momentum. If they do win this, they can go 2 points off the playoff places if results go their way in other games. Or will we see a Fleetwood come back and a bounce back after their sort of poor run of results?
Yeah, it's a game I think we're going to it favourites. We're still a bit inconsistent. We haven't won 2 games in a row so far this year, so that's something that we need to work on. But I think Fleetwood have been inconsistent as well. And when you look at the 2 squads, I know football doesn't work on paper, but on paper ours is the stronger side. Obviously, the win at Portsmouth is going to give us a massive confidence boost. So coming into a home game in front of that Ipswich crowd after a 4-0 win, I'm really confident, and I think we can get the win. And I think it'll be a 2-0 win. I think it'll be a simple 2-0. I think we'll be the better side. you know what I'm like with predictions, but that's what I think will happen. And I think most Ipswich fans will be confident going into this game as well.
Well, then Dan is going for a 2-0 win for Town for tomorrow's game against Fleetwood Town. Let us know what you think on Twitter, which is your score prediction for Ipswich Town versus Fleetwood Town. Will Town make it 3 wins in a row at home, make it 2 on the bounce, or will Fleetwood cause a little bit of an upset? But that's everything for the Ipswich Town section this week. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Premier League Game Week number 8, as we saw a club begin its new era on the wrong foot. Another club took a blow in their title challenge, and also life for one of the newest managers in the Premier League started off very miserably. But we'll be talking about that right after this.
The best place in Ipswich to hear the latest football debates, Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George and Dan, as always. Now, before we move on, talking about Premier League this week, Game Week number 8. We better mention the social media. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk. Instagram.talk_Pitch. YouTube and Mixcloud are both at Pitchside Talk. And do not worry if you missed anything from today's show. Do not worry. At 6 p.m. on Friday after the show is done, it will be up and all up there on YouTube and Mixcloud for you to listen back to. If you missed anything for us talking about Ipswich Town this week, do not worry. You can listen to that at 6 p.m. But now the Premier League, the international break is over and the Premier League is back. And oh boy, was it a good week as we started off with a new era beginning at one club, but it went off on the wrong foot. But another club, they took a blow in their title challenge this season. And the life for the newest manager in the Premier League started off very miserably. But let's have a look at the results from this week. And we start off with Watford. They lost 5-0 to Liverpool. Villa lost 2-3 to Wolves, who scored 3 goals in the last 10 minutes. Leicester did a comeback and won 4-2 against Manchester United. And Manchester City cruised to a 2-0 victory over Burnley. Norwich drew to Brighton in a 0-0. Southampton won against Leeds, adding a little bit more pressure to Marcelo Bielsa, but Southampton got their first win of the season. And Chelsea won a 1-0 against Brentford in a very tight game. And moving on to Sunday's games, West Ham, they scored a 1-0 win against Everton. Spurs won 2-3 against Newcastle, fighting back after conceding the first 2 minutes. And Arsenal and Crystal Palace ended in a 2-2 draw in a very highly anticipated game as Patrick Vieira returned back to the Emirates for the first time since 2005. But Dan, we have to start off with Newcastle, an exciting new era begun at the club under the new Saudi Arabian ownership. But it started off on the wrong foot, losing to Spurs, which was Steve Bruce's 1,000th game in charge as a manager. Congratulations to him reaching 1,000 games. But the game started quite well for them. They got a goal inside the first 2 minutes thanks to Callum Wilson's diving header. But from there, Spurs really grew into the game and won it 2-3. But we have to mention the game was suspended for 20 minutes after a fan suffered a medical emergency in the stands. And we are happy to report that the fan is now stable and responsive from hospital, and he is walking about, chatty as ever, but he will be staying in his hospital for a few more days due to further testing. But that is fantastic to hear. But fantastic news, Dan. The fan is stable and responsive, which was very scary to watch at the time on live TV. But for Newcastle, it shows how big the task is for the new owners. And as the new owner and the part owner was there in attendance, but for them, it's about just trying to survive the season, which might be very tough for them. Looking at the fixtures they've got coming up, they've still got to play a load of the top 6 remaining. But for Steve Bruce, a disappointing result in his 1,000th game, and a disappointing time for his final game in charge of Newcastle. As on Wednesday, he parted companies with the club. Now Newcastle looking for a new manager. But realistically, for Newcastle in the short term, for their new owners, before they look big and ambitious, they've just got to try and survive the season, which might be the toughest thing to do, as Newcastle are one of the favourites to go down, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough job, isn't it? I think they probably knew that it was going to be a tough. That they got a lot of work to do, because I don't think money. It doesn't mean you're going to succeed immediately, does it? So they've got a lot of work to do. The first game, it looked like it was starting so well, scoring after 2 minutes. It looked like, wow, it started already. But I think Tottenham just too good for them in the end. Disappointing start for them. Steve Bruce, I'm guessing he's pleased that he's reached 1,000 games, but I think it'll be a little bit bittersweet for him, won't it? Because that was probably his last game as a manager, and I think he probably left Newcastle, I guess, disappointed that. I don't think he's done an awful job at Newcastle. I think when he took over, I didn't think it was the right decision to bring him in. But he hasn't done an awful job. He hasn't, set the world alight and been amazing. He's just kept them stable in the Premier League. I understand that Newcastle fans want more than that, don't they? They've been crying out for more than that for ages now.
Yeah, 14 years.
Yeah, 14 years. But, he hasn't done awful with the squad he's done, with the squad he's had. But at the same time, I understand why Newcastle wanted him out, because he's obviously not the man to take Newcastle forward. I'm pleased that they gave him his 1,000th game as Newcastle manager. At least they didn't sack him on 999. Yeah. But a disappointing way to end. But yeah, I think the owners, they're probably looking at this now, knowing what a big job they've got to do. I think January will be a massive time for Newcastle. Who are they going to sign in January? They've got the money to sign anyone they want, really. Probably doesn't work like that. It's not a FIFA, is it? But they've got the money to sign, or to try and sign who they want. So it's going to be a massive time in January for Newcastle. If they can get the right signings, then there's no reason why they can't stay up, because I still think their squad now is good enough to just stay up. They've just got to grind their way through. And of course, great news that the fan who, he's doing well in hospital. That's really, really good to hear, because you said it was a scary moment in the stands, and hats off to Dyer and Region as well, who acted quickly, and the medical staff as well that acted quickly to save his life. So yeah, that's great news.
Yes, I think that's the main big victory from this game. He's all stable and responsive in hospital. But yeah, for Steve Bruce, not a good way to end as Newcastle manager. And also for Newcastle, got to find a new manager. I think at the moment it's Francisco is currently open to talks at the moment. He was linked with the Spurs job of the former Roma manager, but the Spurs job fell through. And also Roberto Martinez is interested in the job, but he's currently manager of Belgium own, and there's lots of other managers. But that is sort of the big one. Got to get the right manager in. Maybe they might just get Big Sam in for the time being, get them to survive. And then in the summer, I know it sounds bad, sorry, Big Sam, and get another manager in and get somebody flamboyant in. And, Mourinho keeps saying don't want the job, but Mourinho will probably take the job after a season. So you never know. But moving on to another game, and Leicester, they ended a poor run of results in a fabulous style in a 4-2 win over Manchester United, which has seen the pressure now increase on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But Dan, firstly, we must just talk about Leicester. What a way to end a poor run of results, because this game here shows the Leicester we were expecting to seeing from the start of this season, but we're seeing a very different Leicester, struggling a lot with having to play Europa League. But if Leicester can hit this sort of form, they could be back in the top four in no time, with other teams struggling around.
Yeah, they can. This is a really good result for them to kind of start their season, I guess, because as you said, it's been a poor start to the season by Leicester's standards. They've had so many good seasons in previous years. We expect them to be up there, challenging for Europe nowadays. So yeah, it's been a tough start for them, but I think this win will boost their confidence, and hopefully they'll go on a run now. Because I think playing the Man United side, who have got really good side. I know they're not performing fantastically at the moment. They've still got some very good players in that squad. So to come away with a 4-2 win and scoring pretty much, well, they scored from kickoff, didn't they? After they conceded the equaliser, I think Vardy scored straight away from kickoff. Pretty much, they just attacked from kickoff and took the lead. So, we know a Leicester that can play fantastic football and have got that character to do well. And hopefully they can carry on this run of form, because it's been a poor start, and this win will help them. I definitely think that.
Yes, hopefully this win will help them. But moving on to their opponents, Manchester United, a very different story for them. Words like grim and shambolic being used to describe this performance, and their own players criticising the tactics, especially a man in the name of Paul Pogba. Oh, we all know about him at Manchester United. They have a fantastic relationship. But Dan, really, for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he needs to turn things around very quickly, because their title challenge mode is fading by the game, really. Every game it seems to be fading. They've been in a very poor run of results. They lost to Villa, they drew to Everton, and now they've lost to Leicester, only 1 point out of the last 3 games, really. But think about, I know it's only 8 games in, but they need to pick up the points, because they're 5 points off the top, and we all know that every point counts in this league, every goal counts, and we all know that they can look back and go, that was the moment that lost us the title. But also as well, is it more that Manchester United, that it's more of a team of individuals than it's a team playing together, like we saw under Sir Alex Ferguson? He had players that weren't the biggest stars in the world, but they got them results and it won them titles at the end of the day.
It did. I think that's a big thing at Man United at the moment, because you look at their squad and the names they've got in that team and you think, wow, they've got some fantastic players. But it doesn't seem to be working at the moment. I sometimes look at some of the tactics Ollie comes out with and think, it's really strange, some of the stuff he decides. I think he's definitely under pressure at the moment, from the fans especially. I don't know about the owners at Man United. I know they're a bit quiet, aren't they? But I think he's definitely under pressure, and results need to improve. I think especially with the way teams like Liverpool and Chelsea are playing at the moment, they're just getting result after result, aren't they? Quickly, the gap to the top of the league is going to get bigger, and they need to turn it around quickly. It was a disappointing performance against Leicester. It's understandable why their fans are a bit annoyed at the moment, because I guess going away to Leicester is a tough place to go. We know how they play, but I think United fans would be expecting something from the game at least. I think they're quite disappointed. When you look at the league table, I think they sit 6th, don't they, at the moment?
Yes.
It's still early on, and it's still tight in and around that top 8, really. Anything can happen, but it's been some poor results so far, and the pressure on Ollie is gonna build and build if these results still continue. And I know some Man United fans want him out, and if results continue like this and they're not going to challenge for Europe, it's going to happen, isn't it? I think he's a good manager, but he's not the right manager for the future of Man United if they want to win the Premier League again.
Interesting take there on Manchester United. But finally, before we leave the Premier League section this week, we better mention very quickly about Claudia Ranieri, who returned back to the Premier League, his 4th spell in the Premier League, this time with Watford, and his first game in charge against title challenger Liverpool ended very miserably as he was hit for 5. Watford had no answer really for Liverpool in their fluid attacking play. But Dan, for Ranieri, his 22nd job in coaching, his worst start in any other job he's done. I think the task has been very laid bare for him, but for Watford fans and also Watford fans to see. But with Everton, Arsenal, Chelsea, both Manchester United clubs coming up in the next 7 games, 4 points away from the drop zone, could Ranieri's time be very much short-lived with the happy trigger owners at Watford?
He probably knows that he hasn't got long, has he? Knowing what Watford are like. But getting Ranieri in, I don't agree with them sacking Xisco in the first place, but getting Ranieri in is, a decent appointment. He's a fantastic manager that can do well in this league. Didn't really do well at Fulham, did he? Which was unfortunate. But I don't know. I just don't think the squad at Watford, they've got some decent players, haven't they? They've got some decent players in that squad, but I still don't think they're good enough to stay up, unfortunately. It's a very poor start for Ranieri. I watched the game because it was on at lunchtime, and I just didn't see where Watford were going with it. I know they were playing Liverpool, but I didn't know what formation they were playing. Their players looked unfit and didn't really look up for it. And Liverpool absolutely dominated from start to finish. So, yeah, really, really terrible start for Ranieri. But, if anyone can turn it around, he's probably the guy to do it. And I'm sure the owners at Watford believe in that. I guess I'm worried for him that if results don't go exactly the way the owners want it, he's not going to be in the job for long. Mm. But you never know. We might see a difference for Watford come, later on in the season. But yeah, I do worry for Ranieri, really.
Yes, concerning times at Watford, but that is everything for the Premier League roundup this week for game week and number 8. And next week we'll be talking about game week number 9, which we've got a very big game between Manchester United and Liverpool, and lots of other games as well. We must mention we've got a game on Friday night as well, which is always good to see. Which will actually kick off in a few hours' time. If you want to see a preview for that, head over to Twitter at Pitch I Talk to see what our preview is for Arsenal versus Aston Villa. And now, after when we come back, we'll be talking about the Champions League for match day number 3. All 4 English teams are in action, all looking to make it 4 wins out of 4. We'll find out in a few minutes' time if they did that.
Pitchside Talk, footy debate from the Premier League Outback.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on iRadio. It's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George and Dan. As always, now before we move on, talking about the Champions League match day 3 in a few minutes' time. I better mention the social medias. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk, Instagram is at Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud are both at Pitchside Talk. And if you missed anything from today's show, us talking about the Premier League or Ipswich Town, do not worry. At 6 p.m. on a Friday, as the show finishes, it'll be up on YouTube and Mixcloud for you to listen back whenever you like to. You can listen back to at 6 p.m. if you like to, if you want to hear what we talk about Ipswich Town and the Premier League this week. But now it is time for the Champions League. And last time we all saw all 4 English teams in action, 2 winning and 2 struggling in highly anticipated games in Europe. But this time, Man City were looking to bounce back after losing to PSG. Liverpool wanted to continue their perfect start. Manchester United had a chance to go top if they won against Atalanta, and Chelsea wanted to bounce back after defeat in Turin last time and kick off with Manchester City. They absolutely destroyed Club Brugge in a 5-1 victory. Riyad Mahrez scoring twice and Cole Palmer getting his first Champions League goal for Manchester City, a player who came on against Burnley. The next day he played for the under-23s, and on Tuesday scoring in the Champions League. What a turnaround for the 18-year-old. Liverpool, they continued their perfect start, winning 3-2 at Atletico Madrid, pulling off a little bit of a fight back after going 2-2, but they continued their perfect start, now 9 points from 9, and they're now getting very close to qualifying out of their group, and now heading over to Manchester United, and they had to pull off a little bit of a fight back to win 3-2 against Atalanta after going 2 goals down to Atalanta. But Ronaldo headed home the winner 9 minutes from time as Man U came back from 2 down to now go top of the table in their group. Also, Marcus Rashford and Harry Maguire scored in those games. And also for Chelsea, they put Malmo to bed, making sure they go back into the automatic places out of the Champions League. But they suffered 2 major setbacks. Lukaku and Timo Werner went off. Injured. Lukaku went off injured in the side the 20th minute, and also Timo Werner went off as well inside 35. Looks like he has pulled his hamstring, which is going to be out for a little bit of time. And for Lukaku, we're unsure on his injury just yet, but it looks like he might have rolled his ankle. And that's everything for the Champions League this week. And we'll be talking about the Champions League in a few weeks' time. But Dan, a good week all around for English sides. 4 wins out of 4. Pretty good.
Yeah, it's always good to see the English clubs doing well in the Champions League. So, yeah, really good week for them. Obviously, unfortunate for Chelsea and Lukaku and Werner, which is going to be a bit of an interesting situation for them. But yeah, good week for the Champions League all round.
Yes, a very good week of the Champions League all around, and that is all for the show this week. We've hit the end of the show. The referee's about to blow his whistle for full time. No extra time this week. He's told us no, we're not allowed extra time. We'll get a bit of a telling off for that. We might get we can't get any Fergie time, can we? Unfortunately, but how it rolls. But Dan, I want to thank you very much for being on the show this week. I'll see you next week as always. where we'll be talking about Ipswich Town. We've got the Fleetwood game. Then we'll be previewing the big five that is coming up. We'll just tease it a little bit. They've got a big five coming up against teams that are inside the top 8 Premier League and whatever else comes about. We might have a new manager at Newcastle by this point where we'll have a good old chat about that.
Yes, I'll be there next week. It's going to be an interesting one. Let's see if Newcastle have a new manager by then.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see. And before we go, I better mention the social media. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk. Instagram is at Talk_Pitch. YouTube and Mixcloud are both at Pitchside Talk. And if you missed anything from today's show, do not worry. It'll be up at 6 p.m. on Friday for you to listen back to us talking about Ipswich Town, the Premier League, and the Champions League this week. So yeah, we'll see you next week, 5 p.m. on Friday at iRadio or here on YouTube or Mixcloud, whatever you find easiest to watch us. So I've been George this week. He has been Dan as always. We'll see you next week and ciao.
Yeah.
The whistle has been blown for full time. Tune in next week for another jam-packed show.